Here we go. Go ahead.
Okay, so our first chapter was McGrath, and
so me and Karen did this side, but in McGrath, Gary catches a smell of some warm baked food in a cafe nearby and goes to have a bite or goes to have something to eat. The waitress in the cafe ended up giving him 5 plates of ham and eggs. Gary hadn't eaten that well for days, so he ate them all. When Gary decided it was time to get going, he went to go pay for his meal, but the cook ended up coming out and said that he didn't have to pay for it since he was a musher, so he left a couple dollars on for the waitress. But it's kind of interesting, like in this chapter, how they have this here, because I was watching some videos on it, and there's a town, like the first person who gets there gets a free 7-course meal. Like they get $10,000 on the race if they get to this checkpoint first, and then they get a free 7-course meal too. So it's kind of interesting that he kind of had that reference in there. But we have a quote here. It says, "It was so strange, a hunger of
such intensity that my mind seemed consumed by it, like being in love."
Yeah. So.
Very nice.
Okay, the interior is the one that I did, and this part of the trail is several hundred miles long in pure Alaska wilderness. During this time in crossing, he thinks about his family and what he's going to have to come back to, but in this race, he's by himself. He doesn't have a family at the moment. He doesn't know what's going to happen, and he's thinking about what he'll have to come back to his wife, to his son, to his job. When he's passing through, he realizes just how fast the weather will change. And one minute he's loving how nice and calm everything is, and then the next he's chilled to the bone by the wind, with snow blowing everywhere. And his team inevitably turns off and goes into a dip where they spend the night, or spend a few nights. And when they awake, they find out that there are mushers all around them, and that one of the mushers did fire off 6 shots right near him, and he didn't even hear it. That just kind of shows you how bad the Alaskan terrain is. And here's one of the quotes just to show you. He had been less than 20 feet away from me and fired 6 times.
Okay, so Dawn's Cabin was a pretty big chapter in the book. Did I write anything else?
Yep.
Okay. And it's basically, even before he arrived, stories about that place was that it was a place of safety, kind of a place where mushers could go and rest. And he had that whole image in his mind before he went up to that. When he gets to there, it's after he had been in the interior and met all of these other mushers. So he's going with one of the mushers, and that's when he witnesses this man beat his dog to death. So that kind of changes his image of Dawn's Cabin. And I have a quote up there that says, "Mistreatment is almost unheard of in the race. It's so rare that when it does happen, it stands out and jolts all the more for its infrequency." So it was a pretty big spot just because of that traumatic event that happened.
Okay, Abby and I had Shagaluk. On his way to Shagaluk, Gary rode in very nice weather conditions. He came across a female musher on his way. Otherwise, the ride was uneventful. When he arrived at the checkpoint, a little boy gave him food and explained how he was going to run the race when he was older. And a quote at the bottom says, "I thought about the old saw that if you think you're insane, that you're not insane. Truly, there's more to it. Truly insane people don't know they're insane. But by this time, I frankly knew that he was insane. Nobody sane would do this." Page 223. So yeah, he runs into that little boy, and she's like, "Are you crazy that you're running this race?" And then the boy says he wants to be crazy too, because he wants to run the race when he gets older.
Well, what's that bucket?
Just sit on, because so then they don't have to stand up the whole time. There's some people who choose not to put a bucket down, but some people do like to sit down when they're running the race.
Okay, so we
have a little mid-presentation challenge, kind of a competition. We have the lights on a little bit. You're gonna select a group of 4 or 5 people. It's your choice, and so you can do that actually right now. Then I'll explain the rest. So